beautiful. My name is Sonia Shraddha Devi, and today I'm going to talk to you about attachment patterns and how knowing your attachment pattern is really super important for having a next level conscious committed relationship. Attachment patterns. So I come from having a anxious attachment pattern. Okay, so I've done my research on that through actually experiencing that. I want to tell you a little story about how I learned that I have an anxious attachment pattern, that I come from that, because I would say that I've transformed it a lot. But how I discovered it was that I started attracting emotionally unavailable guys. This was a period of time that this was happening. And as soon as and emotionally unavailable guys, they're usually more avoidant. They're usually more of the avoidant pattern. So the avoidant pattern, like in the face of intimacy, they step away. It feels too much for them. And often they go a bit cold and detached. And, you know, I'm into spiritual guys. So they kind of went into like, I'm so detached and spiritual. And I went into like, oh, I stepped forward and I would I would immediately become obsessive about them. Not in a like psychotic kind of way, but like, you know, really thinking about them all the time. And yeah, just my energy would go like directly straight to them. So they would step away. So we would come together and in whatever way, and then they would step away from the intimacy, and I would go all the way towards them. And so I remember being in a session, and I was explaining like, they're there and I'm like that, and I was this moment where I was like, oh my goodness, look at my hands, look what I'm doing, look what I'm doing. And for me, it was a huge process to eventually begin to turn it around. So I was attracting relationships where we're like this, presencing each other, and that there's actually like a really good distance between us, but we can come together. So this is essentially what we're looking for in understanding our attachment patterns. We want to come to the point where like we feel secure enough, and I'll talk about secure attachment, that we're both able to presence each other and be in relationship in a healthy way where neither of us are clinging on or stepping away. So I mentioned in the avoidant, and of course I'm really simplifying this, but I'm just, I'm giving you a quick download on attachment patterns. The avoidant, usually in their childhood, they had an overbearing mother. Again, this is a generalization, but they felt the need to step away from the love. It was too much. It's too much, and they need to protect themselves by stepping away. For the anxious attachment person, usually their needs for intimacy were not fully met when they were young. And for instance, in my case, I would say probably a very empathic child. So I had very strong needs for intimacy that perhaps my parents were unable to meet, even though they were, you know, wonderful people. And so in the anxious attachment, the needs haven't been met. And so from not being, it's almost feeling like you're starved from the intimacy. So you've really got to put a lot of energy into reaching out and holding on and grabbing on to the intimacy and the love. Isn't that cute that my cat's in the background? And so when, you know, when an adult, these sorts of patterns can show up in very strong ways in relationships. And like I said, there was a period of time in my life where I was really playing out this pattern of really just reaching out and clinging on. And at that time, I felt so bad about being needy. And I realized that, you know, life was showing me, you know, like was showing me my attachment pattern, so I could learn about myself and I could learn about my relating patterns and my needs. And so how did I transform my anxious attachment pattern? And you know, also just to say that we don't necessarily completely, we're not trying to graduate out of our attachment pattern. We're more knowing about it, so we know about our tendencies. But there's a third attachment pattern, which is the secure attachment pattern. And that's generally people who came from very secure home environments where the needs were very deeply met, and where the being felt loved on a very deep level. And so that means there's less compulsion to play out dynamics of pulling away and coming to. There's more of a capacity to be open and loving and secure. And I discovered that by having a lot of compassion and love for my anxious attachment self, for that anxious part of me that was clinging on, and by going on a journey of self-love and healing with that part of me, that I began to feel more secure in myself. And then I was able to attract a man who was also secure in his capacity to love. He also played out patterns, but there was a capacity to be open, to be committed, and we were both able to share that experience rather than doing this dance of running away and running to, and all these dynamics that can play out in relationships. So just to put a little recap on that, anxious attachment, pulling away, avoidant attachment pattern, pulling away. Anxious or ambivalent attachment pattern, clinging on to because they don't know where it's going to come from. So reaching for. And then secure, able to really be with themselves and to meet what's coming up in the relationship from a more secure place. And the more you're aware of your patterns, and then you can really get to a point of noticing them and accepting them and loving yourself, then you become more secure, and then you can attract someone who is more secure also. So it's actually very, very important to understand your own attachment pattern and how you play out your stuff in relationships in order to move through that, and in order to attract next level love and a conscious, committed relationship. So I hope this information has been helpful for you. And yeah, good luck on your inquiry into your own attachment pattern and giving yourself a lot of love, a lot of love, so you can come back to that place inside of you that feels secure, so that you can really open yourself to another person. Sending you so much love right now.